I used to be the sort of person who struggled to wake up and get out of bed in the morning. I'd hear the alarm, hit snooze multiple times, and only roll out of bed when I really, really had to. This often meant rushing to get ready and barely making it to wherever I needed to be, whether it was school, a lecture, a meeting, literally everywhere. Every morning I was in panic mode. I started the day stressed, anxious, and mentally unprepared for the day ahead. And you know what the worst thing was? I did this every single day for a decade. But thankfully things are different now, and the key turning point was reading this book called Make Your Bed by McRaven. And the central idea is that small daily actions at the beginning of the day can completely transform your life in a positive direction. To begin with, this just meant making my bed every single morning. For sure, that's a really, really small win, but it gave me a sense of accomplishment that allowed me to kickstart my day in a positive manner. And from there, my morning routine has just evolved to incorporate even more healthy habits backed by science. And little by little, my stress levels have dropped, and I've shifted from just getting through my day to really making the most of it. Fast forward to now, my daily routine is like my secret weapon. It's my time for growth, it's my time for mental and physical preparation, and it's my daily reminder that I can tackle anything that the day throws at me. The cornerstone of any good morning routine, mine included, is consistency. Now, this is not about rising with the birds or beating the sun, it's about getting up at the same time every single day. I personally roll out of bed at around 5 AM, but that's just my thing. You do you. Whether you wake up at 7 AM, 8 AM, or even 9 AM, that doesn't make you any less disciplined or successful as long as it's consistent. And there's a ton of science backing this up. One study that looked at over 60 Harvard students for 1 month found that those students with the most consistent wake-up times performed better than those students who decided to mix it up, even if they got the same number of hours of sleep. The study also found that having a consistent sleep schedule helps us to set a steady rhythm for our body's internal clock. Basically, it has a huge number of positive effects on things like our metabolism, so that's how our body uses energy, our hormone regulation, so those are chemical messengers that help to regulate things like sleep, appetite, and stuff like that, and also has a large positive effect on our overall general well-being. The time itself doesn't need to be exact or early, it just needs to be more or less the same time every single day. And if getting up at the same time every single day is something you struggle with, then there are 3 things that I find particularly helpful. First, go to bed every single night at the same time, making sure we give ourselves an adequate amount of time to sleep, which for most people is around 7 to 8.5 hours per night. Secondly, reduce the friction of getting out of bed in the morning by preparing the night before. For example, before I go to bed, I will lay out my clothes on the floor so I know exactly what I'm going to wear. I'll have a to-do list on my desk ready to go so I know exactly what I need to do that day, and I'll also write out my 3 daily number 1s, which are the most important things I need to do for my health, wealth, and relationships. Finally, put your alarm on the other side of the room, and that way when you get up in the morning you're forced to get out of bed and you remove the temptation of doom scrolling on your phone when you first wake up. Once I'm out of bed, the very first thing I do is to go downstairs and grab myself a cold glass of water to drink. You see, after a long night's sleep, our body is slightly dehydrated. So drinking this water is like sending an invitation to our body to wake up and to begin working at its best. Our metabolism, our cognition, our immune system, everything just gets a nudge from that water. In fact, even just mild dehydration of just 1 to 2% of our total body weight can affect things like our alertness, our memory, our concentration, and even our physical performance. So sipping that cold water in the morning isn't just super refreshing, it's a quick pick-me-up for our body and our brain. The other thing I quite like to do when I first wake up is to take a cold shower. Now, some of you might find this absolutely crazy, but there's actually a ton of evidence that suggests this is a great thing to do first thing in the morning. One really fascinating study, for example, found that having a cold shower first thing in the morning boosts metabolism by 350% and increases epinephrine in the body by 530% and jacks up dopamine by around 250%, which is a similar increase to that of nicotine, which is absolutely mind-blowing. So having a cold shower basically nudges our body into action, triggering all those vital functions that help us to feel alert, cheerful, and geared up for the day ahead. And part of the magic of all of this is down to how our body controls our sleep-wake cycle, which is also known as our circadian rhythm. You see, every morning as part of our natural wake-up routine, our body temperature starts to climb, and this increase in internal temperature is basically like an internal body clock telling us that it's time to wake up. It helps to boost our alertness, sharpens our focus, and gets us ready for the day ahead. So anything we can do to increase our body temperature in the morning will help us to feel more awake. And surprisingly, that's exactly what cold showers do. They help us to warm up the body and therefore to wake up the body too. After my cold shower, the next step is to go outside, and the idea is that we want to get natural light into our eyes within an hour of waking up. And even if it's like relatively dark outside or there's dense cloud cover, there's still going to be far more photons reaching our body from that natural light than there will be in the house from artificial lighting. So we want to try and spend at least 10 or 20 minutes outside in the sun every single morning when we wake up. And the main reason for this is that it helps to modulate the timing of something known as our cortisol pulse. Basically, cortisol, which is also known as the stress hormone, plays a huge role in helping us to wake up in the morning by giving us a natural boost in energy at the start of our day. And this is what we mean by the cortisol pulse. It helps to set our temperature, rhythm and motion, it helps to set our level of alertness, it increases our mood, it boosts our focus and things like that. And ideally we want this cortisol pulse to happen as early in the day as possible, and that is triggered by natural bright light when we first wake up. Now the problem is that without a decent morning routine, we're going to be late shifting our cortisol pulse, which has a bunch of negative effects on our brain and body. For example, if we're the sort of person that spends an hour or two just lying in bed when we first wake up, scrolling on our phone, or just like mucking around on our laptop with the curtains closed, then we're not really going to get this cortisol pulse. If we then decide that we're going to leave the house at around lunchtime, this is going to be the time where we first experience a spike in our cortisol levels, which completely disrupts our temperature regulation and other internal mechanisms within our body. While there are loads of benefits of getting natural sunlight into our eyes first thing in the morning, such as increasing our dopamine levels and increasing our testosterone levels, really the main kind of idea behind getting sunlight is to ensure that the cortisol boost is aligned with our circadian rhythm, which helps us to feel better throughout the day. Now, my favourite part of my morning routine is exercise. So I'm currently training as a hybrid athlete, which means I'll first go for a run via my local park before doing some resistance training or weights training at the gym for around 45 minutes. And while there are clearly a bunch of physical benefits to working out every single day, I find that having some form of exercise in my morning routine helps me to feel mentally prepared for the day ahead. In particular, when we increase our heart rate, we're increasing our blood flow and therefore oxygen delivery to our muscles and tissues. As a result, any remaining adenosine, which is this natural compound found in our body that makes us feel tired and sleepy, that all gets cleared out as a result of the exercise. You see, exercise stimulates the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and norepinephrine, which have an inhibitory effect on adenosine receptors in the brain. You see, the neurotransmitters are released and they bind to the receptors, preventing adenosine from attaching to them. And so the feelings of fatigue and drowsiness that come from adenosine are reduced and mental clarity and focus is increased. I also find that exercise is like a huge task on my to-do list. So getting that done first thing in the morning feels like a huge win. And it also gives me like a whole ton of positive momentum that I can take with me throughout the rest of my day. Once I get back from the gym, I have a shower, I get dressed, I eat a healthy breakfast, and then I sit down and do some quiet contemplation. And that usually means meditation and journaling. And there's really like two reasons I do this. First, it helps me to approach the day with a sense of calm, and secondly, it positively impacts my emotional well-being. Both meditation and journaling have both been shown to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety, enhance self-awareness, and to encourage us to have a more positive outlook on life. Plus, these activities activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for the rest and digest response. As a result, our body feels less stressed, and we can approach our day with a greater sense of calm and tranquility. In particular, I meditate for around 15 minutes and I do an interoceptive biased meditation practice. And if you want to find out a bit more about how I meditate and what I mean by an interoceptive meditation practice, then do check out the video that I've made somewhere over here. Then most of my journaling at the moment is done using the Day One app, as you can see here. I have a template that I fill out every morning and it takes me around 5 minutes to complete. And I feel like it really frames the day nicely and it makes me feel mentally prepared for the day ahead. Finally, before tackling my first proper task of the day, I like to be creative before reactive. And basically all this means is that at the start of every single day, I block off an hour to focus on my number one priority outside of my job. This could be filming a video like this, it could be writing a script, it could be finishing an article, or some other creative piece of work. The point is that I want to start my day with a sense of purpose and direction before I get bogged down in things like emails, social media, and other distractions. This is also when my energy levels are highest, so I want to use that energy on stuff that's going to be needle moving for my personal life, rather than wasting it on stuff that isn't going to help me to grow, develop, and learn. Then once that hour is up, I'm ready to tackle my first task of the day.